Yo, I did not know how much I missed Chainsaw Man until I opened up this chapter, was greeted with this 10 out of 10 character, Bucky, that is the headless chicken, and all he does is like egg puns or chicken puns. He's like, it's, excited or it's excellent. He does stuff like that. It's oh my goodness, it is so good. Like, the wacky nature of this chapter of Chainsaw Man, chapter 98 to be exact, is just, it's insanity. Like, oh my goodness. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this chapter. There is so much build up, so much mystery, new characters introduced, where the story's gonna go, and there is actually a lack of Denji throughout the chapter. I'll talk more about that in a second, but this is an excellent chapter of Chainsaw Man for a lot of reasons. This encompasses everything that I think we know and love from Chainsaw Man, basically to just the wacky comedy with, for instance, literally a talking headless chicken that is like a chicken devil, to just like the final segments of the chapter with crazy like gory action and all that, to the actual like head, like spinal head sword or whatever, all this wacky stuff. It is just peak Chainsaw Man content. This is stuff that we all love, the just pure chaos and insanity of the manga. And that's one of the biggest things that Chainsaw Man always was, or just the author in general, what they write, he knows how to, like, make something that is controlled chaos. And I'm not meaning to make a pun or a reference to Makima by any means, but he really has mastered the art of having something so over the top and be serious, comedic, and dark at the same time. It is just a different atmosphere that you're not used to when you read manga, and I really appreciate just that overall presentation of Chainsaw Man. And I think that's why many of us have missed the series, and why this series is obviously blown up in popularity since it went on hiatus. And I remember, catching up to this manga like literally like 5 or 6 chapters before it ended. I remember doing some videos on it, and then it went on hiatus. You're like, wait, really? And then now it's finally here. It's been like, I think 17, 18 months, maybe longer, since we got, Chainsaw Man. But it's crazy. It's finally here at long last, and we're getting to carry on the journey of these characters. So let's talk about this. So what's going on? Well, for one, this right here, this panel, this is straight up Goodbye Eri. Like, okay, I don't know if you've read the one-shot, but I did a video about a month and a half ago talking about Goodbye Eri, which was a one-shot by the same author that's, done Chainsaw Man, etc. And basically, this is just straight up a reference to that. An explosion, walking away from it. It's so good. I love this. I love the Goodbye Eri reference. It's 10 out of 10, straight up. But okay, with that out of the way, obviously, we have this piece of dialogue here with basically nuclear weapons being mentioned. And just as a brief reminder, making sure we're all on the same page and we remember everything, at the end of the first half of Chainsaw Man, before Makima got defeated by Denji, basically, it was revealed that Denji, or Chainsaw Man, the devil and all that, is able to devour things and get rid of them completely, where you'll forget. Basically, nuclear weapons, stuff like that, certain parts of war. And so, when you see this being mentioned, nuclear weapons, it's like, okay, so what's going on here? For one, obviously, everybody's supposed to forget about certain aspects that Denji eats when, he eats a devil or whatever. So, when you see this, it's like, why does this war devil know about nuclear weapons? But also it raises a question about Makima as well, and how she knew a lot of things. So there's a lot to really go on. But the big point though is that there is a lot of build up with this chapter, basically saying that this individual right here is potentially our villain of this story. So that is food for thought, because FYI, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but there is 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in Chainsaw Man. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So basically, in Chainsaw Man, there's 4 horsemen. Making sure, I'm showing this just to make sure you all understand. basically, there's 4 members that was mentioned, and it's heavily implied that Makima, the Control Devil, was obviously one of the 4 horsemen. We have the Death Devil, War Devil, which is, the one that was just introduced, and then we have the Hunger Devil, which is probably famine, starvation, etc. And the reason why Makima is the Control Devil, a part of it, is because domination, basically, or conquest horsemen. But, so we know Makima, obviously, was the big baddie of Part 1. And War Devil is looking to be, like, basically the main baddie of Part 2. So this is exciting, because obviously we know the twists and turns of Chainsaw Man now, and obviously the same little things that happen throughout Part 1, we won't fall for the same things. For instance, like, a female character being very nice to Denji and all that, kind of, being close to him and eventually just stabbing him in the back, stuff like that. You can't have something like Makima happen again. It's not gonna happen. So obviously, the writing is more direct. We know the intentions of this character. The question, though, is, will this character remain evil, or will they potentially flip and turn sides and join Denji for whatever he needs to do? So there's a lot to gather from this conclusion, and I really like that. This War Devil is really cool, and there's a few other things that does need to be mentioned. For one, when she becomes the War Devil, you see this right here. Maybe my camera might be covering it, I apologize, but you see this little bird here? And it's like a corrupted looking bird. Obviously, this is the War Devil that possesses the girl, and she becomes, the War Devil. But there's a few things to talk about. This entire interpretation of a bird, this darkened looking, depressing bird, there's a lot of points in mythology and folklore, different stories, where birds are definitely ominous. Like, you have, like, the one-eye raven, you have the story with Athena, you have stuff in Japanese folklore with birds and stuff, and myths and all that. So when you really look at, yokai myths and all that, it's probably a mixture of a lot of things. But as someone that is a big fan of, let's say, Roman, Greek mythology, different things like that, this definitely reminds me a lot of Athena. Now, I doubt I'm the only one to come to this conclusion, because the Chainsaw Man community is definitely super intelligent. Very, very intelligent. They know their stuff, and it's ridiculous just how deep some people in the Chainsaw Man community dive. So, once again, I doubt I'm the only one to draw this conclusion, but as someone that likes mythology, and I've mentioned it many times in the past, this reminds me a lot of Athena, and it's kind of interesting, because once again, the war god in, like, mythology, you would think of Ares, but once again, Athena is related to Ares, and Athena is more of a tactician or a strategist. So when you think about that, this being kind of like reference to Athena, because Athena is affiliated with birds and stuff. But, so basically, the bird stuff, it makes sense. It's definitely affiliated with Athena, potentially, or maybe just a yokai from, Japanese myth. But, yeah, there is a lot of build-up with this War Devil, and I'm excited, honestly, because you don't really know if the individual in question, like the one that, accepts the contract, the terms with the War Devil, if the individual is actually their own person, a mixture, like a hybrid, etc. of the personalities. You don't really know. You can assume that it's a bit of both, because obviously we do see that she doesn't really like Chainsaw Man early on in the chapter, and so with the War Devil probably not liking Chainsaw Man, to the fact of, obviously this girl potentially not liking it, it probably is a cross between the personalities. We'll have to see. Now let's cut right to the chase, though. Let's talk about a few other things that this chapter obviously does. For one, we got a lot of darker tones throughout the chapter. We have this little scene right here where this girl basically becomes the Justice Devil, and you get a lot about, her happy ending with her teacher, which is just really messed up, really foul, let's put it that way. And, like, you have the stuff with the spinal sword to just, like, the arm and all that. There's a lot about this chapter that is just incredibly dark. Like, one of the funniest deaths I think that's ever happened actually in this story was probably this right here. So basically, you have the character, our main character of chapter 1 of part 2, or chapter 98 to be exact, is walking out, and she's finally happy to be amongst a group of people that finally accept her. She can just be happy. And as she's running with, the chicken devil, she falls over, crushes it, it dies. And it's like, bro, oh my god. It's dark. It is really dark, and it's messed up. It's hilarious at that because of how messed up and morbid it is. And just looking at this, it's like, oh my goodness. It is just, it's peak Chainsaw Man. It really is. So, there's a few other things to kind of talk about. For one, obviously, we gotta wonder if if things can be remembered now, is it associated with the Four Horsemen, like, for instance, why nukes are remembered here? And basically, only people like Makima and this character right here is the only reason? Or could there be something else going on? Maybe, you know, Denji's overall eating of memories and different things are, not permanent. They actually can come back. We will have to see, because if that is the case, that means that maybe Makima could potentially return. We'll see. But, yeah, I just, man, I really like this chapter. It's such a good chapter. It is so nice to finally have this series back. And I'm just, yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad to see it as top shape and top form as ever in terms of quality. And we're in for a really long and enjoyable ride for Chainsaw Man. Cannot wait. So I'm gonna leave this video there. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more and all that, and I give you any form of entertainment, etc., you know, please do leave me a like. It helps me out a lot, helps with the algorithm, allows more videos to pop up in YouTube's feed, etc. So please do that if you want to help me out. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leave a comment as well and tell me your thoughts on the chapter and what was your favorite part. Do you think Bucky is the best character in the series? But jokes aside, though, be safe, everyone. I love ya. Chibi out.